Brothers, how you doing? Cold winter's day here in Tasman. I'm at a mate's place having a brew. Dandelion root tea. Thanks for the idea, Josh. Want to talk today about healing, and the reason I think I'm qualified to talk about it is that 11 days ago I lost Mikhail, my nephew, who was almost like a son to me. I'd spent a lot of time with him. My own son, Yona. He's not actually my biological son, but I call him my son. Anybody I look after is a son to me. And Yona nearly lost his life trying to save Mikhail in a drowning at Maria Falls. My son's a strong swimmer. He stopped off on the way, taking Mikhail to Christchurch just to go for a swim in a place he's been, I think my daughter's been over that waterfall like 3 times now, and my son, he's in the water all the time. So to him it was nothing, but Mikhail decided he'd jump in too. And my son swam out to try and rescue him, and he couldn't. And my son almost that close to losing his life. So the last 11 days for me has been grieving. I want to talk about this because a lot of you have got grief in your own life, and it can be not just grieving somebody that you've lost. It can be something like maybe you can't eat a certain food anymore, or maybe you've lost the use of your legs and you can't go hunting anymore, or maybe you've lost something that was really important to you, a place you lived, or maybe you've lost someone you loved yourself through either death or someone's left you and you're alone. And this type of grieving is a natural process, and I would compare it to this. I remember when I was a little boy trying to keep up with my dad. He used to walk big strides and I couldn't really keep up with him, and we were going on a goat hunt. My dad only took me hunting twice in my younger life. Once when I turned 5, he took me to hunt a hare, and another time he took me to hunt goats and we didn't get a goat. And that's the only time he ever took me hunting. He didn't do much for me, my father, but I remember I was trying to keep up with him and I fell over and I knocked the skin off my knee. It was a real good one. It was a good piece. And got back up and he said, "You're alright, get up." And I got up and I had this really sore knee, and I really was trying not to cry. I was 5 and I remember trying to cry because my dad, in his wisdom, he taught me not to cry, which was fucking about as useless or as useful as tits on a bull. Not being able to cry, going through a life of not being able to cry, like my old man tried to make me tough, and it didn't make me tough at all, it made me weak. Crying is an important way to let stuff out, and of course if you don't let it out in one way of crying, it comes out in another way. It makes you sick in another way, and it sure did that to me during the course of my life. So fathers, tell your sons if they need to cry, crying is good. Men cry, they show their emotion. Today I can show my emotion, and I do. So I had the scab on my knee after a while. I got back home from the hunt, and after 3 days you get that bit of blood on your knee and a real scab. And I remember looking down at it one morning. It had probably only been on there for 3 days, and I started to pick it. And I picked it, a bit of blood came out, and I picked it all off again. That was fun. And then about 3 days later it came back, and I picked it again and picked it all off. And my mum said, "Don't you pick that, you do it heal." And I thought, nah, fuck that, I'll pick it again. So about another 3 days I started to pick it, but this time it had some white stuff under it, and I pushed down on it and all this pus came out, and it was getting infected. I was getting septicemia in my knee. And Mum saw me out on the beach. She goes, "Oh, that looks very raw and red, that knee. What have you done?" And I said, "Nothing, Mum." She said, "Have you been picking it?" I went, "No." She said, "You have, haven't you?" I went, "No." She said, "You're lying." I went, "Yeah." I started crying. "Yeah, I picked it, Mum." She said, "If you want to heal, you've got to stand off and let things just heal by themselves." Well, it's the same with grieving, and since I lost Mikhail and almost my son, I've been grieving solidly, and I haven't been getting sleep, and I haven't been keeping food down, and going through that whole emotional thing. And I was thinking about this about 3 days ago. I was back at the site where he drowned with my son, and I thought, this is where I'm leaving my grief behind, because I'm not going to keep on picking that scab, otherwise I'm never going to heal. Well, it's been 3 days. I'm sleeping better, I'm keeping food down better, and whilst I have grief inside me, and I'll never ever stop thinking about him because I loved him like a son, I've got to allow the healing to do its thing naturally. Our bodies and our minds and our spirits and our emotions, they heal if we give them the right environment. What is that environment? First and foremost, it's love and people, and that's where you guys come into play. Some of you will be my patrons. some of you will have already watched my videos, and by making videos, which is my passion, is my way of expressing and sharing my grief with those around me that I love. And we are all connected, whether you like it or not. What happens to me affects you, and what happens to you affects me. We're just all connected. So by doing that and having you guys allowing me that space to communicate that without judgment or just letting me go through that grieving process, that has been huge in my healing. Secondly, well, that's not the first thing. That's one of the things. There's a whole raft of things. But the big thing is, really, we can say it like this, is love. And love is family, friends, people that love you for how you are without any attachments or wanting anything back, and just see you who you are. So the love of my children, my son, when this accident happened, my daughter gave him this, because both my kids are into whitewater stuff. It's a punamu, how do you, greenstone. My Māori is shit. My mum's a fluent speaker, and my Māori is shit. A greenstone. It's called a greenstone. That was a gift from my daughter Dayla to my son Yona, and he took it off his neck. And the day he got out of hospital, because he went into hospital after nearly drowning, he put a piece of greenstone around his neck, which I had when I was 11 years of age. I made it when I was 11. I gave it to him, and he's taken this off and given this to me, and he's now wearing the greenstone that I gave him when, well, I probably gave it to him, I think about 15 years ago when he was just a boy, and he's got that around his neck. So I'm close to him. So this is so the energy from my daughter and him is close to me, but also connects my daughter with me. This is our way of coming together as a family during a time of grief. So not everyone's got the luxury of having family. Some of you are alone in this world, but most of us do. For those of you that don't have family, then I would say create community around you. Really, really important. Don't become an old fuddy-duddy and cut yourself off. People often end up being cut off from people because they say something that people don't like, or they get pulled up on something that people don't like, and that's what happens around you. If you say something that's out of line with the universal things that we do in this world, you'll get stomped down on. It's like culling the weakest of the herd. You'll get stomped down. If you're not strong enough to get back up and keep running, you'll get cut out of the herd and you'll perish. It's always important to say, I was wrong, I'm sorry. That's important, so you can come back to the herd. Because ego separates us. When our ego is so big that we don't see our own mistakes and shortcomings, and I'm always the first to say, hey, I was wrong on this. I know the importance of understanding that I'm wrong sometimes, and I'll be wrong again. I make mistakes, and I will make more mistakes. I'm a human being, and I'm far perfect. But it's really important to do that, because the people that you cut yourself off with your ego, when I'm right all the time, you eventually will find yourself in a situation of loneliness and despair. And when grief comes to you, as it will come to all of us, and we all do lose things in this life we love, you need to have people around you to fall back on and feel their love. I am so fortunate because I've got my children, and I've got my children's mother, still very close to her, talk to her every day. Ola, wonderful woman, wonderful mum. I've got a huge amount of people that I am so respectful of and so lucky to have in my life, but I nurture those relationships. And something else men need to do more is nurture relationships with those around us. If you are lonely and you find yourself alone and in a dark place, then you need to look at what's going on. And don't play the victim game, don't play the blame game. Look at what you're doing and change the pattern. And come back into your circle, whatever it is, whether it's a community of hunting or community of fishing people. The guy I sold my boat to, Bill, said, I'm not going to go down to the Abel Tasman in the boat, because I said, let's go down the Abel Tasman. I'm not going down there, they're all funny down there. I said, they're not funny down there. I said, you're funny. People cut themselves off. It's not good, because when you need people in that time for your healing, that's going to be who you're going to lean on. A lot of people have written to me and say, hey man, you can call me if you've got a problem. thank you very much to everyone who said that, but I've got people I can talk directly to around me, and I've been proactive at making that happen. I have a big team around me of people that I built my team, and you need to build your team. We all need a team. Build your team strong and choose wisely. And if there's somebody on your team that is making it all about them, or someone on your team that's not hearing you, wipe your hands, move on, say, good luck mate, I want to wish you all the best on your journey. Sorry, I'm kicking you off the team. You might better come back at some other date if you can work alongside me and hear me and understand the direction I need to go to survive. It's a very, very tough world out there. There's so many things that are going to come along and knock you. If you continually pick that scab all the time, you're never going to heal, whatever the pain is in your life. You've got to let things just heal themselves. They will. The body's a great thing. The spirit's a great thing. The mind is a great thing. The emotions are a great thing. We're a complex creature, but we can do it if we just give it space in the right environment. So what's the right environment for healing? Love. First and foremost, love the community around you. Sleep, exercise, diet. Eliminate your stress if you can, but don't be too much of a hurry to eliminate stress by doing things like drinking and distractions. Those distractions can end up causing you more pain. Do it in a healthy way. Dopamine is something that I've been addicted to my whole life. I've either done it through excessive eating, excessive drugs, excessive womanizing, excessive gambling, excessive working to get that dopamine buzz all the time, and it's made me sick. It's given me disease, and it's taken me a long time. It's taking me a long time to get everything in moderation. Whether you're smoking or you're scrolling on your phone for dopamine, or you're drinking alcohol, that dopamine buzz that you get from food, excessive eating, all those things there, they will all in the end make you sick. And the crazy thing about dopamine is dopamine wants just one more thing. What's that? It wants more dopamine. When I was in Germany as a musician, I had a habit with Charlie, or cocaine, you know it better as, and the first thing after a hit, 30 minutes later, what do you want? You want another hit. And it's an expensive habit to have, and it can kill you. I had lots of bad habits, and none of those things will ever bring you happiness. Joy is found in the smallest things, like sitting here, being quiet, drinking a tea, and listening to the birds in the trees. And the roar of the traffic in the background. Breathing it and just feeling it. That's joy. That's not happiness. Happiness is a different thing. Happiness is, oh, I'm happy because today well, it's sort of happy, but not really. People say be happy. I say be content and be joyful. And it's really bloody hard to achieve. Bloody hard to achieve. I've struggled to achieve that my whole life. But I do feel I'm getting closer and closer to it. I really do. And so, this video started off talking about losing my nephew Mikhail, a wonderful young man who struggled. Man, he struggled. I see myself, and I'm wearing the jacket I gave him. I gave him 2 of these. He lost the first one. This was the second one. He broke the zip on it, but I'm wearing it just to be close to him today. But I'm also putting down the grief for a while. Not picking the scab anymore. Just giving myself a chance to heal. Because I'm no use to you guys, to my family, to my loved ones, to the world around me, if I don't take from this horrible tragedy something and grow wiser. When you get hurt in life, when you fall down and something bad happens to you, you've got a choice of 2 things. You can keep on reliving that horrible moment and live in pain and hurt, which in itself is insanity because you're not living in the present moment. Or you can take from it wisdom. You can grow from it and learn something that you can pass on to your children and those you love, and make use of that tragedy. And Mikhail, who suffered terrible mental unwell-being towards the end, really struggling a lot. I give myself comfort that he's no longer struggling. He's no longer. His spirit has been released and his mind is now not in agony, but I also take from it that life is at any moment it can go like that. So tell your sons today, tell your daughters today, you love them. Tell your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, I love you. Because it could be the last time you ever say it. You never know. I was only talking to Mikhail that morning. Crazy thing is, I called my son and him on the phone exactly midday, exactly the time they were both drowning. I called them at that time. I was here in Mapua, and I called them, and their phones got the message, but they were in the water. I just had this strong feeling. I'll finish the story off by just telling you what it was that, some of you will know this story, what it was that really gave my son the strength to live. It's pretty heavy for me to say this because it evokes a lot of emotions, but I need to talk about this. I need to get it out. And I want to thank you guys for giving me that space to talk and to hear me without judgment, because 99.999% of you have all done that, and thank you. It's really important for me. But I think you might take something from this too, and I hope you do. I hope it brings some value in your own life. Otherwise, I'm just talking to the birds. And that's not a bad thing. Not that they really listen. They're on the wattle tree right now, and wattle is one of the plants that in the winter has a flower. And it's actually considered a pest, but actually our bees and our birds get something from it. So let's go to that story before we finish up. So my son and I were talking about 3 months ago when I was diagnosed with having heart disease. That's the diagnosis, and the CT scan came back with left and right both blocked, and a lesion that's really not looking good. And I said to him, son, I beat cancer, I'm cancer free today. Well, I can't say cancer free, I've got to go 5 years really, but I know I'm cancer free. And the markers, all the blood markers show 0. And I've been having these chest pains, and this is a disease that's been happening for years slowly, and because I was so focused on the cancer, I took my eye off the ball, and I was not looking after my heart. And so I said to him, son, for the last 3.5 years I've been on 1 meal a day to arrest the cancer. I've been on 1 meal a day to create a state of autophagy, to induce apoptosis, which is when your cells are going around eating up all the rogue cells. And my markers are 0 for cancer. My uncles died of the same cancer before they got to my age, and I had like 2 tumours. So I've beaten it, son, and you watch me beat this heart disease. So that's my journey right now, and I won't talk about what that journey is. That's a whole video in itself. In the future, if I survive it, my chances of dying are of sudden heart attack is 25%, and I'm 16 times more likely to have a heart attack than the other men around me of my age, of where I am right now. Although that's probably already starting to change. Already, I got my LDL down from in 20 days. I got my LDL down from 5.8, which is fucking high, down to 2.9 in 20 days. Did that without any medication. So yeah, a video for another day. So I said to my son, I'm gonna beat this heart disease. Don't you worry about me. If I don't die in the meantime, I'm gonna beat it. And when I do, that surfboard, I bought this 9.9 surfboard, I'm gonna take you surfing. We're gonna do a surf trip, father and son, around the country. I'm gonna paddle out in the break beside you. It will happen. I'm gonna make sure it happens. I'm gonna beat this. You watch. So he was like looking at me back then, and he said, I believe you can do that, Dad. And I said, fucking damn right I can. The doctors say you can't. They say you can't reverse heart disease. Bullshit. You fucking watch me. I've already done more in 20 days with bush medicine and what I know than what statins drugs could do in probably 6 months. And I've got the tests before and after to prove it. It's going to make a few heads shake. So, and a whole lot of other things. I'm not out of the woods yet, and I know that. So I told him that. So when he swam out to rescue Mikhail, who had jumped in after him, Yona had already been out swimming. He was on the bank. He was looking at it. And you could see him getting into trouble. He then put his own life aside. It was already cold because it's only 8 degrees in there, freezing and exhausted from swimming the current. He'd been swimming hard in the river. He then swam back out there to save him, and Mikhail panicked and climbed up on top of him. And started to drown my son and actually pushing him down because he was trying to get on top and pushed him under. And eventually my son had to let him go. Mikhail just let it go, and he was floating like this. He was unconscious just like that. He was already drowning. He was dying. My son saw this, but my son was down below, and the aerated water, he couldn't get to the top, and he was trying to get to the top, and he was trying to get, and he couldn't. And he realised after a while that he was drowning. He hadn't taken any water, but he was looking up above the top of the water, and he was way down deep because there's pressure of the waterfall driving him down, and the aeration, you sink into it, and he couldn't get to the top. And he thought, this is it. This is my life. I'm history. I'm going to die. And what happened next is incredible. At 12 o'clock, when I got that feeling in Marpur while he was in Maria Falls drowning, I got this feeling. I was in the garden, I just sat up and I went, my son, I could feel it in my heart, like, fuck, something's not right, man. Has he had a car accident? I'd grabbed my phone out in my pocket and I just pushed it and, son, are you there? Nothing. Dialing, but nothing. Just the answer phone. And then I got Mikhail. And I was actually talking, Mikhail, and it's, are you there? I was actually saying it out loud, even though I could see it not picking up. Are you there? I was trying to contact. And then I was like, back to my son again. Try it again. I was going, Yona, like, Yona. I thought I could feel something. I don't know. And I don't even believe in this sort of shit. It was just a strong parental feeling, parent to son, father to son. And at that same time, he's now trying to get to the top, and he said then at that time he realised that was it. He was going to drown too. And he thought, well, he told me this. He said, I'll open my mouth and I'll just breathe in the water and see how that works out. So that's what he went to do. And just as he went to do it, he then saw my head come down, the vision of it come down towards him. As he was trying to get to the top, he could see my face. He said it was all mixed up with other stuff, but he could see my face strongly there. And then he could hear me saying, son. Son. This is hard to say, but son. I'm well now. I'm taking you surfing. We're going surfing, son. That love I'm talking about, it's so important. He could feel it there, and he could, for a moment when he was dying, and he could no longer hold on to life, even though he had no oxygen left, and he'd been down a long time, and he was hypothermic, and he was freezing cold. He was actually hypothermic by then, and no energy, just giving up, just wanting to let go of life. He had to get to the top to go surfing with his dad. He had to get to the top because his old man had fought the battle. This is the future. It was the future, and I'd fought heart disease, and I'd fought cancer, and I'd won, and I was still there. And that human spirit thing that you've got and I've got that will help us survive if we just really embrace love with those around who we love in life. Can't do it by yourself. So I pulled him out of that water, and he said he couldn't, he had no air left in him, like he was holding his breath. He didn't breathe in the water. He took it a little bit. They got that out in the hospital later, but he said, I just found this extra energy to kick to the top there. I don't know how I did it, but I just got there and I just got my head up, and I took a breath and I sunk down again, and then I went back up again, and by absolute miracle there was somebody down there by the water, and he was in this whirlpool. He was going around under the water, and he got his head up, and he said, help, because you can't wave your hands, and people, when they see your head, they don't know you're drowning. And he went, help, and he had used a little bit of air he had to go help. And a man, I think his name was Sam, I haven't met him yet, I've been trying to find out who this bloke is, saw him and came down, and he was going around, and he had one chance to grab this ledge, and if he didn't grab that, then he would have gone out and under the waterfall, and he would have drowned definitely. He wouldn't have survived that. because he was already exhausted, and he just got there and got a hand to the ledge, and this guy reached him and pulled him up, and the ambulance came and the rest as well. He went to hospital and went out. But anyway, this story is really one of telling you guys that in your own pain, that the things you've lost in your own life, and I know many of you have had terrible losses, I know you have, I know you've had all sorts of things, that I believe where there's life, whether it's disease, where there's life, where there's loss, where there's life, there's always hope, and there can be healing. Whether it's a broken heart, whether it's emotions, whether it's heart disease, whether it's cancer, you've got to believe, you've got to take full control, and you've got to take full responsibility and have no denial about what's going on. You've got to go through whatever it is you're going through in life, head on and deal with it. Now, I'm going to drink my tea, and I'm going to take my dogs for a walk. I'm going to walk 3 times around my paddock. I couldn't even do that 3 months ago, and my cardiologist would say that's impossible. But I've already been pig hunting once and stuck my first pig. I won't be doing a lot of that because the heart's still, I'm not out of the woods, but I am already starting to heal. My endothelium cells are starting to repair, and I'm starting to create that nitrous oxide through my arteries and blood vessels because of what I'm doing. I hope you took something from this, brothers. This is a heartfelt story. I hope it in some way has helped you. Thank you for all your messages. Again, thank you for giving me the space to talk and explain and talk about. For those of you my patrons, I've taken you right through the whole process, which was pretty horrible. Thank you for hearing me without judgment and giving me that space to grieve. And also thank you for helping me to have that good environment around to now do the healing, because that's what I'm doing. And I hope you're healing too for anything that's hurting in your life. Smash out the day. I'm taking the dogs for a walk, and as usual, go steady. And I say go steady because I haven't been that steady most of my life. I've been extreme here, extreme there. Steady is a good way to go. See you later.